morning, my good men and women. And I have noticed a trend in cinema recently that is pissing me off, and I'm gonna talk about it. Let's talk about it. The other day, I was watching the 2019 adaptation of Little Women by Greta Gerwig. It was one of the more beautiful movies I've seen in recent memory. I mean, it was just pulling at the heartstrings like the whole time. And yes, it was fantastic, but more importantly, it felt authentic. When I saw Saoirse Ronan, I was like, yes, that looks like someone who would have existed during the Civil War, or Emma Watson, or even Florence Pugh, or Meryl Streep, or really anyone that was involved with the movie. It looked authentic and it looked of its time. But here's the thing. That doesn't seem to be the case with a lot of period pieces that are coming out now. Too many of them look like they have been Instagramified, and it's completely taking me out of the movies or the shows or whatever it might be. And the thing is, this isn't only an issue with period pieces. It's kind of an issue with movies in general right now. I just want to focus on period pieces because period pieces are supposed to be pieces about the period they lived in. And believe it or not, Instagram didn't exist in the 1800s or the 1900s or the 1700s or so on. So let's get silly and let's rant. The greater CinemaScope in general right now is loving to err more on the side of aesthetic over authenticity. Now, a lot of times directors can get away with this because, well, you know, if a movie looks good or looks pretty, that'll capture enough people, especially if that doesn't really affect the actual story. But when it comes to period pieces, this wholly affects the story and the world that is being crafted. When I'm watching a movie by Robert Eggers, whether it be The Witch or The Northman or The Lighthouse or Nosferatu, really any of them, it feels completely authentic. And you can see it in the makeup, you can see it in the wardrobe, you can see it in the people that he casts. The world feels whole and it feels grounded. When you think about some of the Eggers regulars like Willem Dafoe or Ralph Ineson, you think those are two people who I could see existing in a time where dirt and grime was really all anyone had. Let's flash forward to a show like Bridgerton, which has opted for more of the high fantasy, bubbly, bubble gum, glossed over look that Instagram and Netflix love so much. It doesn't feel real with a show like Bridgerton, and I'll give them some benefit of the doubt. I know they're not completely opting for true historical accuracy, but still, when you're making a show or a movie that's meant to live in a time period, you have to respect that time period. Netflix in general has loved that glossy, digitalized, perfect look for years now. I don't know if this is a product of the Marvelization factor, because those Avengers movies, while I loved them, all looked the same way. It was just so highly digital, and everything looked picture perfect, and everything looked like it had been blurred over and airbrushed about 17% before actually being put to the screen. What I'm trying to say is, this kind of aesthetic does not represent a period piece at all. Because a lot of times, believe it or not, history has not been very pleasant, and it hasn't looked pleasant either. When you opt for aesthetic in these period pieces, you sell out the spirit of the film. And the thing is, I don't think these companies or anyone really cares. Maybe I'm the only one, but it almost feels like a democratization of beauty standards in general. And as part of a greater discussion in general, I feel like something that people love to do in this day and age is take the morals, the values, the trends of 2025, of the 2020s, and copy and paste it to the morals, the aesthetics, the trends of whenever that period piece came out. Picture this, imagine you're watching Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson, which was perfectly cast, by the way, with Paul Thomas Anderson and Vicky Krieps. Both of those two look like they are born straight out of the 17 or 1800s. Now, imagine instead of Paul Thomas Anderson or Vicky Krieps, you had Sydney Sweeney and Jacob Elord, both who are great actors in their own respect. but I don't think they necessarily look like they're from the 1800s. I think they have more of the modern look. And you already see some of this. An actress like Sydney Sweeney has already done some period piece focused stuff. And every time I see it, I don't buy it. Maybe it's because she's plastered everywhere on Instagram, on my television, on here and there, and she's kind of just the face of this in-your-face commercialization of actors and actresses. So maybe that's why it doesn't work. And again, this could go into a much broader conversation about acting in general right now, especially for these streaming services. Again, I keep bringing up Netflix, but they just seem to be the prime contender. Acting isn't about being conventionally beautiful or fitting into the box of whatever the modern beauty standards are. No, acting is about reflecting real life. It is about reflecting what we see in our day-to-day. So a movie, let alone a period piece, isn't gonna feel necessarily lived in when every single person you see in a cast is just a 17 out of 10, where every single person you see is just the most beautiful person you've ever seen in your life. Euphoria is like the greatest example of this, but I watch these people and I'm like, why are there 28-year-olds in high school right now? It's like, where in the hell is this high school? When I was in high school, I sure as hell didn't look like that. No one around me looked like that, all right? Because I'm not watching movies just to see model. No, I'm watching them to feel like I can escape into a world for a couple hours. And I just feel like Instagram and all these apps and the algorithm have conveyed beauty standards into a way where it's like, if people's algorithms are just filled with unrealistically beautiful people, then of course the studios who are especially profit and wealth minded right now are also gonna put that and instill that into their shows and their movies because they feel like it's gonna make them more money or it's gonna make more people watch. And maybe at the end of the day, this is my fault or all of our faults for letting the algorithm just fry our brains into obscurity, because maybe we don't want to see real anymore. Maybe we don't want to see authentic. We just want to see what is the most visually pleasing. We just want to see the eye candy. In a lot of ways, it just feels like an erasure of age and imperfection. Kind of like how digital replaced film. Digital has this glossy, perfect feel for it. Film felt so much more lived in because you could see the imperfections on each frame. No frame was exactly alike. Today's culture doesn't tolerate wrinkles, asymmetry, or blemishes. Period dramas absorb that. Rarely do we see historical figures with visible age or flaws unless it's villain coded. But in history, age was unavoidable, and imperfections were the norm. By erasing those, we're projecting our modern beauty anxieties onto the past. Like when Margot Robbie was in that Queen of Scots or whatever it was back in 2018. Are you really gonna look me in the eye and tell me that Margot Robbie looks like she could be Queen Elizabeth I? I don't care how much makeup or how much prosthetic or how much whatever you put on her face. It is Margot Robbie. She was not born in the 1800s. And of course, for all the bad, there's still so much good. Some movies that came out semi-recently. You have The Favorite by Yorgos Lanthimos. Olivia Colman is one of the most talented actresses out there right now. And what makes it even greater is that when she's plugged into a period piece, she absolutely looks the part. Also, Banshees of Inisherin with Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan, who Barry Keoghan is just born to play any role that's not of this time, because he's just got a very unique and distinct and rugged look. By sanding away flaws, these productions undermine what makes the stories resonate. Jane Austen isn't about pretty dresses, it's about social pressure, class, aging, and regret. When everyone looks like an Instagram model, those stakes evaporate. Beauty becomes the default and the stories lose their bite. So I guess I could probably just talk in circles about this, but the main point, the main takeaway, if you have any takeaway on this video, is Instagram and social media and all these very modern looks that they are cultivating are starting to ruin the authenticity of cinema. And sure, it's not a huge problem. I could easily just avoid those movies. I could just avoid them. Believe it or not, I could just do that. What would the fun be in not having anything ever to complain about? There would be no fun. Okay, I'll stop ranting. This has been the Chitch Files, where sometimes I go in depth about directors, movies, recommendations, hidden gems, you name it. Bottom line, I love to talk about movies, and I like to talk about the themes, the current themes that are happening amongst these movies. So, if you agreed with what I had to say, or just like the fact that I'm a raging idiot who's just ranting, go ahead and like the video or subscribe or whatever it is you do on this YouTube platform nowadays. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you next time. Take care.